Join me today as I do a custom finish for this Thomasville armoire. This is something where people will look at, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And you're right. But my clients bought these beautiful black nightstands from me and they want this to coordinate. So we're going to change it up. Again, this is a modern Thomasville armoire. You saw those beautiful dovetails. Um, so, we're just going to do what we can with this piece in order to make it coordinate with the other nightstands so that they have a cohesive set. First thing I need to do is take off all the hardware. This large armoire had the tiniest little knobs on there that I've ever seen. Like, I don't even think I've seen tiny knobs like that on itty bitty nightstands. They're hilarious. So those had to go. And then, of course, I have to give everything a good cleaning. I get lots of questions. Why do you bother to clean if you're just going to make it all a mess again? Well, there's no way to know what's on this piece. Were they cleaning it with some type of furniture wax or something? And all of those products will affect the adhesion of my products, so the paint and primer and everything. So I give it a good cleaning. That's why I always clean first. And I just like to start with things clean. So I get the shelf out, and then as I'm cleaning, you can see that there's a lot of dust in there. There's about to be more dust because I've got to do a bunch of sanding, but I like to get it all clean. Anyway, time to take all the drawers out. Now, these are the style of drawers that are super common. They have a metal rail, and then there's this plastic thing on the end. So you'll see how you do it. You get to where there's tension, and then you give it a good yank and pull those out. Some people think that these drawers don't actually come out. They do. All drawers come out. I fight with them sometimes, but they come out. Many times the little plastic, these are like a compression style. A lot of times those things are broken, and I have a bunch of them on hand. We just replace them, but I give that a good inspection and make sure they're all good. I was getting everything all cleaned up, and now it's time to number the drawers. I want to make sure they go back in their original spot because they always fit best that way. Okay, time to get on the ladder. This thing is tall, and of course I have it on wheels because I have to be able to move it around so it's even taller. And I don't know why I set this up in the most awkward spot. I mean, I really could have done this outside and had a better place, but as we zoom out a little, I'm on my ladder and I'm coming up underneath the garage. I don't know why I set that up there, but I got it done. I didn't notice it at the time. I was just getting it done until I see the video and go, what was I doing? Anyway, I can laugh at myself too sometimes. Okay, what I'm doing now is just scuff sanding. So this isn't that piece that I have to go and do a whole bunch of repairs on and, figure out things where I'm going to put hardware. I get right into it. I have a 120 grit sponge on here so that I can just do all the little molding and the areas around everything. I went ahead with just the sponge to start. So I'm just scuff sanding everything. And I'm doing the edges. Again, I have the sponge on this is my Surf Prep sander. That way I can do the flat parts. I can do all of the rounded edges. And this is a modern day Thomasville. So, old vintage Thomasville has like a finish built with armor. And it takes a lot of sanding to scuff it. These newer finishes scuff right up, so it didn't take a lot of work. So I pulled that interface pad off, and now I just went with a traditional flat sandpaper because this top drawer is getting fully stripped. This is my one little accent area that's going to tie in those nightstands that you saw in the beginning that had a stained base. And the clients really wanted to have some type of a stained element. So, we just looked at the overall design of this. How could we coordinate all the pieces? And we decided to try to strip this. Now, again, being that this was modern, very modern Thomasville, I wasn't sure if this was going to be MDF or if it was actually going to be wood that we could stain. But I was pleasantly surprised when I got it stripped that indeed it is wood that I can work with and stain. So I got the majority of it stripped with the sandpaper, and now I have these little rubber contour sanding blocks and just a piece of sanding net or the mesh there that I'm using so I can get all of these little areas that the sander can't reach, and I just do them all by hand. Takes a little bit of work to elbow grease, but these contour blocks make the job so much easier because you find the one that just fits that little space the best. I switch between a couple because I've got different, like they've got a wide gap and then I've got little edges. So all my little sanding blocks, I just go through the different sizes to make it all work. But sanding by hand. Sometimes this is, I've just got my audiobook in and I just get in there and start sanding away. And pretty soon, before I know it, I'm all sanded and done. Now I'm going to go back in with that interface pad on my Surf Prep and just give everything a good sanding, just to get it all smooth back down. All right, I pretty much have this entire piece scuff sanded. So now I'm just going in with a damp microfiber towel and I'm going to start dusting everything, getting it cleaned up. Things get pretty dusty from sanding, of course. But I want to start just reducing dust. I'm not completely done yet, but I want to start reducing the amount of dust that's on this piece and in my workshop because I don't want dust everywhere. But here we are. It doesn't look like I've done anything to it, but as you know, I've just been working on it all day. Okay. Those dovetails are spectacular. They're stained. I don't want to mess with them at all. I don't want any paint getting on them at all. So I'm going to tape them. On vintage pieces, they've already got stain all over them and I can sand all over them, whatever I need to do. But I'm not going to mess with these dovetails, so I want to just protect them. And I'm going to remove the doors. I wasn't sure if I was going to remove the doors, but I've decided I think it's going to be best. I might have a better overall result if I just take them off. It's really important when you're removing doors or anything that has hinges. And even though these are new, it's even more important if this were vintage. But it is important to figure out what goes where. So when I lay those out, I lay them out carefully so I remember which door is left or right. Because sometimes that knob is in the middle and you can't tell which door was what. Anyway, I have a few scratches here that did not come out when I was doing the scuff sanding. So I'm using some spot putty. I don't know if they had something that they slid across that or something, but it's got some pretty deep gouges. Also, there's a couple of areas on the drawers that have some scratches too. This spot putty is amazing. It sticks to everything and it's perfect for scratches and little dings and things. Okay, so I laid these out. I know which door is what, and I've got some little baggies. I'm labeling them. And I'm going to be carefully taking these off of here and just getting everything labeled. So these are my screws that came out initially. Those went in a bag labeled with the screws. Sometimes the screws are different lengths for the hinges, for the ones that go into the door and the ones that go into the cabinet. So you have to keep those separated because the ones that screw into the door are a different length. Okay, so this is the right side little clip. And now I'm taking off the hinges. Again, separating all the screws. And then I'm also going to keep track of where this hinge went. So I'm going to label it with which door and which direction. This is the top of the left door. All right, those areas that I took off now, I'm just sanding because those were on there obviously before this got stained. And so there's a little bit of a ledge from where all that finish went on. So they put their hardware on and then they stain over it. And I want to smooth that ledge out. Now I'm also labeling the doors. So I would have put like upper left, lower left on that too. And I'm going to tape over it because I don't want to put paint all over this area. Adding a few layers of paint and top coat and everything will change how the hinges sit on the door. And it can affect how those doors close. So there they are. That's all covered up. And I'm going to start with staining. I wanted to get some stain on this drawer just to make sure that this was going to look how I wanted it to before I started priming and painting, just in case I was going to have to go ahead and prime and paint this drawer. This is a stain that I mix. It's a custom mix of 3 different stains. I did the mix for the nightstands and another dresser, and thankfully I kept some of it, so I had enough to do this. Otherwise, I'd have to remix it. But it's like a dark walnut, a castle stone gray, and another color called whole wheat. This is all salmon stains. It's a water-based stain. I'm putting it on dark because this is what I did on the dresser and I want it, the nightstands, and I want it to match. Once this dries, it does lighten up a little bit and you can start seeing the wood back through it again. All right, so I have that sitting to the side drying, and I'm now, because this is going to be an open void, I usually always paint with all the drawers in because I don't like the insides to get covered in overspray. So I am taping this off. I don't want overspray in the cabinet. I don't want it on my drawer guide. So this is cool. It's just a, painter's plastic that's got tape already on it. Time to set up the spray tent. Things are going well enough with that drawer. I'm pretty confident in it, so I'm going to go ahead and just proceed with the cabinet itself. This is my Easy Up tent that had sidewalls. This cabinet is so tall, I can barely get it in here. I have to lift this thing up and get underneath it. Now I'm wondering, what am I going to do with this once it's painted? I hope I don't scratch it, getting it back out. I'll have to do something creative. So on this particular day, this is kind of the end of a week's worth of prepping a whole bunch of pieces. So I have prepped 5 pieces of furniture, and you will see that my spray tent is going to be crammed full. So what I'm doing is setting up a tent that's on some little dollies, or not a tent, a table. And I'm going to be wheeling these in and out of the center here. So I put them in the center. They're, of course, in the way of everything else. I'll paint or prime. I'm priming right now. Then I'm going to wheel those back out of the tent, get them out of the way, and start painting the other pieces. So on this particular day, I'm doing a dresser, an armoire, and 2 nightstands. Everything wanted to be black, so I thought while I'm painting black, I might as well do it all at the same time. And this piece is so tall that I have to do the top on a ladder. All right, time to get this primer on. I'm using a tinted gray primer. That's a Sticks primer. I got it tinted at my paint store. The guys do it there for me. Sticks comes in white. So you see I wheeled that in, did the doors, I wheeled them back out. And now I'm putting a tinted top coat on here. The reason I'm doing that is because that's what I did on the nightstands. So again, we're trying to get all the wood to match. That just really brightens up, just enriches that color. I think it really makes it pretty. So time to mix up my paint. This is Bold Black by Farmhouse Evolution, my favorite paint. You'll hear me say it all the time. And I'm doing a little touch-up kit right there. Pour a little paint in that. I add water to it so I can spray it. I know a lot of sprayers say, no need to dilute your paint, but I always have to. It's never thin enough to just spray it. So I use water, just bottled water. It works out just great. All right, most important step. I say it all the time, sand your primer and sand in between coats. After sanding, I did get that all wiped down again with that damp rag. Time to go in with some paint. When my paint canister is full, I can pretty much paint upside down. So I was able to do the top of that. Otherwise, if the sprayer's not spraying, I have to do that by hand. Just getting everything painted. This is a fabulous black color. It has so much pigment to it. After one coat, it is done. It is solid. I do always go back with a second coat, but this is amazing coverage. All right, the doors take extra time because, of course, you've got to do this. I have to wait for it to dry, and then I have to flip it back over, bring them back in. This is the inside shelf. It's also getting painted. The same thing here. I have to flip it over and do the other side. This is a great representation of how I overlap my layers when I'm spraying. They're at least 50% overlapped. That just gives you that really solid solid coverage. In between coats, I do take the drawers out. This is between the 2 coats of paint. And I touch up all these areas where the lip of the drawers sits against the front of the cabinet. And it just needs to get touched up there. A sprayer can't reach it. And then I'll put the drawers back in after everything's dry. No, they don't stick. But after the next coat, I do pull them out a little bit while they keep drying. But the inside of that cabinet was crystal clean. Okay, sanding again. I cleaned that all off, and now I'm putting on my second coat of paint. I don't sand after this layer, of course. Wheel them back in. I'm going to flip these doors over. You'll see their primer on the other side. I always paint the inside first and the outside outside of the cabinet last. That way they don't get flipped over onto anything. Okay, now I'm going with clear top coat. These got several layers of top coat. The first one was the tinted, and then I'll do several layers of the clear. And top coat is also going on the cabinet. Again, several coats. This is Evolution paint. It doesn't require top coat. I just like putting top coat on because it changes the sheen, which I like. All right, taking all of that off to reveal a lovely spotless interior. Love it. Putting the drawer back in. This is the next day, so everything's dried overnight. And we are coming along. Take the tape off, looking at my dovetails going, yes, they are just fine. Love it. I didn't want to disturb those. Okay, I'm going to start putting the hardware on. This is the same hardware that's on the nightstands, so I didn't have to put new holes or anything in. Thankfully, everything's going to coordinate nicely once they get it in their room. And something landed in my top coat. Darn it. So I have to do a little repair. If you notice that anything lands, a bug or something, onto your piece while you're painting, do not touch it. Leave it alone. Because if you touch it, you'll create an entirely worse problem. It just makes everything horrible. So let it dry, sand it smooth, and then I do have to hit it with another coat of paint and top coat again. But had I touched that when I first saw it, it would have been a mess. All right, now I am taking the tape off of where I taped that area where the hinges go. And it's also revealing where I labeled everything. It will make this process so much easier. So there's my lower left door with the lower left part. You can see where I've labeled that, and it just goes right there. It makes my life so much easier. I'm not having to figure out where everything goes. If I just label it, I have learned over the years, just take the moment to label and separate. Okay, let's take a look back at where we started. And here we are now. This is beautiful. I think it's going to coordinate so nicely with those nightstands. This piece was so big, I did not take it off the dollies to take pictures. We're going to have to enjoy it while it's sitting on wheels. But I think you get the idea of how this turned out. How you can turn something that was so simple and kind of plain into something really pretty. I hope you like it. Be sure to follow for more.